I heard a critique of capitalism from a surprising source. Of course, socialists, Marxists will talk about how evil capitalism is and how bad it is. But the person that I heard have a critique about capitalism was somebody who I considered a capitalist, Boyce Watkins. Welcome to Escaping the Echo Chamber. So Boyce Watkins, I saw a clip this morning of Boyce Watkins talking about why he doesn't use the word capitalism. So this isn't like a repudiation of wealth building. It was specifically talking about that term. And his critique was that when you're talking about capitalism, the objective is to gain as much profit for your shareholders. And at that point, he says it's worrisome that a person will, don't care about hurting people, poisoning the environment, cheating people, screwing people over, and all of that because the bottom line is seeking profit for the shareholders. I disagree. I think I disagree on 2 points. And the thing about I like what Boyce Watkins has done and is doing in focusing on wealth creation, on encouraging Black community to become financially educated, which is crucial. I mean, you don't understand how much power there is in financial education, and like how what Boyce Watkins and individuals like him, your Jay Morrisons, they're individuals who are promoting a certain activity and educational skill sets that can be more beneficial than all of the voting in the world. Like, seriously. Now, I think voting does have a purpose and does serve does have its own benefit, but it does have its own impact. But like financial education, I think, is the key. I really think financial education is one of the most important things the Black community can be doing to improve our situation. Because if you look at how much of all these other problems arise from not having wealth, not having capital, not having basic, the money, the power to take care of our basic needs, our wants, that kind of stuff. But here's where I disagree with Boyce Watkins on 2 issues. One, I don't think that that's necessarily an accurate description of what capitalism is, in terms of there are plenty of people who are capitalists, who own businesses, who do want to get profit, but they also have other concerns as well. So while the one aspect or one, like the CEO may be focused on, okay, how do I maximize profit? There's other, people in the company who have other concerns and who are worried about treatment of their employees, the bottom, like the product, the quality of their product, like because there's and it does partially tie into that, where people could be like, okay, we don't want to put out a crappy product because 1, it will undermine people's faith in our brand. 2, that will interfere with our ability to continue to make profit, because once people no longer have faith in our brand, they will stop buying it. Our profits will be less. Our profits will diminish, and we eventually go out of business. But I think that tends to simplify the fact that people are motivated by so many things. Like, people will start companies, and even if the company is successful, they can have a vision. They could want to do something and have their company mean something separate and distinct from just, amassing profit. But the thing is, in some cases, there are some individuals who I do think are focused on maximizing profit. And I don't necessarily think that in and of itself is a bad thing, because there are people who are constantly trying to innovate. There are people who are constantly trying to get better, trying to make more. And I believe because he says he doesn't think that's a good thing for us, the Black community. But I think it's absolutely necessary for us, because we have to keep trying to because especially the Black community, who has been targeted over centuries for There are groups that have just a intense amount of animosity, hatred, disdain, contempt for, and so for that reason, like I don't think like too much is never enough, because we need to be able to be at the top of our game, be able to protect ourselves, be able to provide for ourselves, because we've already seen what allowing others to run things does. In terms of running things for us. Like if people want to control their own, that's cool, but allowing others to have control over us, having power over us, has not been a good idea. And I know Boyce Watkins knows this, because he's focused on wealth building, and he constantly talks about not just depending on a job and being at the mercy of somebody else. But that's why I think it's that same principle that applies to wanting more and fighting for more, striving for more. Because if we're, trying to amass more wealth, there's more we can do with it. Like there's, in terms of buying land, and especially just how much help the Black community needs. If you have a Black capitalist or a group of Black capitalists that are just driven and determined to get more, like I think that we're not in any danger of having too much to provide and to help the entire Black community. So like the more like that driving, that having an individual or individuals within the Black community who are driven like that, I think would be absolutely beneficial, because these are individuals who could then now say, oh, what do there are still people in the Black community who have been left behind, who need more. Now I have the potential, now I have the ability to help them. Now I have the ability to, because I have so much and I'm still working on getting more, but I can go and help them and lift them up. Boom. And that's one of the things why I think, just keep striving isn't a bad thing. But there's more. There's a better reason and a more important reason why I think trying to get more and trying to improve, constant, like never being satisfied, never being complacent, is so important. And it's not just about finance. It exists in the financial world. It exists economically, but it exists beyond that. So when it comes to, emotionally, physically, in your health, you're working out, because you can start working out, say, okay, I've lost a certain amount of pounds. I can do, let's say I can do 30 push-ups straight. I'm good. Right. And like, no, like, why stop? Why not keep pushing yourself, seeing how much you can do? Like you will never, to give you an example. When I was in high school, I would do push-ups, sit-ups, and I would like generally go for like a max out set. So I remember I was like 40 to 50 push-ups, I think, was about the number that I can max out in a set, and I'd just be tired, But that would be it. I wouldn't do sets multiple. I would do a set. So one day I decide, let me see how many push-ups I can do throughout the entire day. So throughout the entire day, I would just get down, do some more push-ups, and I'd do sets of 20, sets of 30, and I wound up doing 300 push-ups the entire day. I was sore all week. The entire week I was sore. So now, later on, when I was locked up, I remember first got locked up, and one of my partners is like, hey, let's do some working out. It's like, okay, well, what do you want to do? He's like, okay, let's do 200 push-ups. Let's do 10 sets of 20. And now I'm new in, so I don't know how to work out like, I learned to, but I'm thinking back to the day I did 300 push-ups in one day, and I was sore for a week. And so now I'm like, nah, I don't want to push myself to 200 push-ups in like one workout. And I won't be, if I'm that sore, as sore as I was that entire week, like what if something jumps off? Now, like my arms is like, yeah, like my arms is too weak to move. I barely, no, I'm not doing that. That's a bad move. I don't want to push myself too far and actually, be at risk of if something happens. It wasn't till sometime later, a couple of years later, that I learned how to work out. And that 200 push-ups in 10 sets that I thought was like, oh, that's so much, was nothing. It was nothing. I got to a point where I'm doing 5 sets of 50 in 10 minutes. Boom, boom, boom. And I get up, I'm not sweating, my arms aren't hurt, I'm feeling good. I can get down and do more. But it wasn't, I didn't know what I was capable of until I actually pushed myself, until I was around people that actually knew how to work out and actually helped me push myself further. And so that's what I'm talking about in terms of pushing yourself and not being satisfied, not settling for, okay, I've made $100,000, I'm good. Oh, I've made $1 million, I'm good. And like I said, it doesn't just apply to economics. It doesn't just apply to money. It applies to personal development, from the physical to the emotional, to you, like being in control of your emotions and learning to, because you could be at a point where you're saying, okay, I know how to control my emotions. If somebody calls me a name, somebody calls me the N-word, I can control my emotions. But they say something about my mama, I'm going off, I'm killing everybody. Like it's World War III. But if you start learning how much control you can have over your emotions, you can get to a point where people cannot trigger you, where no one has that control over you. But you won't know unless you're willing to continue developing and gaining control over yourself to the point where you can be like, okay, this person is trying to get a rise out of me, but I'm in control of my emotions, I'm in control of my thoughts, and I can just leave it alone. Now, if that person puts their hands on me, if that person puts their hands on somebody I love and care about, that's a different story. But I'm not going to let somebody just use words to trigger me into doing something that's going to be ultimately harmful to me. But that's what I'm saying. So it's in terms of constantly improving ourselves and working on ourselves, developing skills, not settling for knowledge in terms of, okay, I've got a degree, I'm not learning anything. No, we can learn something every day. And I think that principle of capitalism, that principle is a good one. And I think it's something that we need to take, not just in capitalism and dealing with earning money. I think it's something we need to be applying to all aspects of our lives, of never being satisfied, of never just saying, okay, I've got enough, I've done enough, and that's good. Because if you take a look at the mindset that exists today, so in terms of the socialist Marxist, where I deserve food because I'm alive, somebody needs to provide this for me. That is not just a principle in terms of like if you look, it's affecting all aspects of people's lives, because people are actually of the mindset that, okay, they don't have to do anything, but they should eat. Okay, well, who's providing the food? Who's going to grow the food? Who's going to pick the food? Who's going to produce process the food, however it's being processed? If it's just being chopped up, or if there's some other more involved process that's happening to the food, who's going to cook the food and then prepare the food, and then serve the food? Like somebody has to do that. But you've got a mindset that has permeated beyond just economics. And it's not good for an individual. It's not good for society as a whole. Because if society as a whole has that mindset, it's that, okay, well, somebody's going to do something for us. Somebody's got to do it. And we're entitled to it. Like, instead of having a mindset that I should just keep striving, always making myself better. And just look at these two competing ideologies. One where I expect other people to do things to me because I'm breathing, as opposed to an ideology that I expect to be better every single day. I expect to do more every single day. I can learn something every single day, something new. I can always improve. Now, think about how good that is for an individual and how good that is for society. A society that's constantly improving in terms of people learning how to relate to each other, how to communicate with each other, how to just get along with each other better. People learning how to constantly striving for new technology, new innovations. Like it's just what it means for the world is just like so much better. And so I don't think I get where Boyce Watkins is coming from, but I think that these are things that actually are beneficial. And I know they're looked at negatively, but they're being looked at negatively a lot, oftentimes, by people who are advocating for these socialist ideas, these Marxist ideas that, because you're alive, you should be provided this, without the actual doing the thought process of, well, who's providing it? Somebody has to do the work, and what effect that has on us as individuals, as a society, this sense of entitlement, and the sense that somebody else is responsible for meeting my needs and making me happy, as opposed to me being responsible for pursuing my own happiness. So as always, don't forget, give me a thumbs up, like, share, subscribe, and subscribe to the channel, because I'll talk more about issues about not just problems within the Black community, but what we can actually do to improve it, and with specifics, because there's a wealth of just theory out there, but actually doing things and having concrete solutions, that's what I'm about. Like, that's one of the reasons why I have this channel. That's one of my drives. That's one of my passions. So yeah, if you disagree with what I've said, you can feel free to give me a thumbs down. But if you give me a thumbs down, don't just give me a thumbs down and run away. If you give me a thumbs down, be sure to write in the comment section why you've given me a thumbs down, and I will address it either in the comment section or in a future video. Thank you for watching this episode, and I will see you next time.